I'm going to give a little bit of an anecdotal overview. It's a little bit of a personal story, and it's a little bit of a story about the reason we're here for the Redux for Interaction 14. In case you didn't know, the mission of the IXDA is to improve the human condition by advancing the discipline of interaction design. It does that by online platforms, it does it through fantastic local groups like this, and through the annual conference and awards. The thing that always perplexes me is, why do designers feel compelled, like myself, to put on events? And I can see in the crowd here quite a lot of people who tend to do that. I'm not sure what compulsion we have to get away from our desk and put on events all the time, but I just want to go a little bit of a tangent into why we do that. Well, this is back in our story in IXDA Dublin. This is from the Harbour Master circa 2008. Bill Kammerer from Dublin was the guest speaker. He was over from New York, and there's about 10 of us around the table. We went on that year to form an event you might have heard called Diffuse, a team of volunteers, and Diffuse is still going 5 years later. Round of applause for Diffuse. I, of course, have nothing to do with it. It's all Philip and the crew, doing a great job. Interaction 12, of course, came to Dublin. We were very privileged to get that, very lucky. It really put us on the map in the terms of the interaction design scene, and with 750 designers come over to Dublin. And then I got a little involved with a conference over in Toronto called Interaction 13, with some fantastic speakers and content, including our very local speaker here. You may be familiar. And then I got involved with the Interaction 14 team, the planning team. Now, I have to say that when I say I'm involved, I was a member of the IXDA board dedicated to overseeing events, making sure that it was getting smoother. So, events require a hard-working team with a huge workload. It's a gargantuan task to put on an event. And in case of the IXDA, for Interaction 13, 14, 15, there's three groups of, three committees in parallel of volunteers. Everyone's doing this for free in their spare time. So behind the scenes, you can see that Interaction 14 is just one of the three current events that were going on last year. Now it will be 14, 15, 16, obviously. Events require a lot of time. This is the 18-month timeline for the Interaction conference. You recruit the chairs, you get the committee ready, they recruit the committee, there's a lot of planning and design. And events are transient. That's one of the saddest things. I remember after Interaction 12 ended, it was like everyone went away, and after 18 months of planning, you're like, where did everyone go? It's an event, it's over, that's it. So it's like you're taking down the circus tent, then you're not going to go into another town, so it's kind of sad. But that's why Reduxes are great, So I think this concept of a Redux is very good, because you're extending the life cycle of the conference and really trying to make people who weren't there see all the great things that were there, if that's possible. Of course, there's great video content online, and there's really good photography online if you want to see that too. So, in terms of Interaction 14, probably the best conference I've ever been to, have to be honest. So, not just saying that because I was involved. It was a spectacular team. Are you familiar with the kind of the play in 3 acts, Act 1, Act 2, Act 3? A lot of conferences do 3 days. There's an opening, climactic, beginning. Actually, it's more like the climax at the end, right? But it's a dramatic opening. And then day 2 is really intense. It's really deep. There's a lot of deep content. And day 3 is the climactic ending. So in Interaction 14, they did a really good job, because not only did we have Europeans, we had a lot of North Americans. This is the presenters by country. In terms of Interaction 14 conferences, we have the United States as the most attendees from the US, Netherlands, Germany, United Kingdom, and right here we have Ireland. And the people who are going to share some of the stories tonight are that little rectangle on the screen. So, but it was a big contingent, relatively speaking. If we look at Interaction 14 conference by continent, we'll see that Europe actually, for the first year, bypassed North America in terms of attendee presence. So it's getting much more balanced. Personally, my top 10 highlights, and I'll go through them very quickly. I don't want to be like going through my phone album, and bore you to tears. So at number 10, the great venue was the Wester Gas Fabrique. This was like the gasworks down at Rings End. Fantastic venue. It was a blank canvas, and you walked into this big campus, and you walked into this. It looked like something out of 2014, The Space Odyssey. And the brand experience was so cohesive, it was really good. So from the entrance all the way through to the actual staging, which is proper order, of course, but the Dutch really took it to the next level. They had bicycle branding. The chairs came in, the co-chairs came in either side of the stage left and stage right, and branded bicycles. Can you believe that? Then they had the bicycles on the stage too. And then there's this funky carpentry edifice there, which represented a Dutch house, and also had a lamp there, and it had this really great digital display inside the window. So a nice juxtaposition of carpentry and technology. You gotta give plus for that. Buzzword bingo. Don't you just hate when you go to a conference and everyone starts saying the same buzzy thing? You know, there's lots of them all the time. For me personally, this year was the design process map realigned again. You know, maybe it's an in-designer joke, but how many times have we seen the design process remapped? This particularly entertained me. No offense to the speakers, a great talk, but the first step in the process was empathize. I like that. You know, forget research, we'll just And the other was design. Do not design interaction, design the context for interaction. We hear this a lot. A lot of speakers are talking about this. You can't design the experience. You can only design the touch points. So we're all familiar with that. So I think we should move on from saying these things and take them as a given. Interaction 15 was announced in San Francisco. Go to the website, join the mailing list. Tickets available in May. It's going to be a very hot conference. We'll sell it very quickly because it's on the backyard of Silicon Valley. So get on that if you're interested. That's myself with the 2 chairs. Ben and Catherine, that's Nick Gould, the president of IXDA, and that's Danny, my successor. Hanging out is always great. You know, there's lots of spaces to hang out with people, as we all know. But the Irish contingent was fantastic, even better. I never felt such a pleasure or pride going around all the Irish. There's so many of us this year. And Dutch design, what are we going to say about Dutch design? Really good. The Dutch do a fantastic job of design, world renowned. But in the conference, it's integrated in such a subtle way. So these beautiful spaces, you know, within this very industrial space, this really lavish living room setting. The architecture is fantastic. And the actual badge had like thumb marks for your thumbs. You could see it at various days. So the print was fantastic. And they even delivered on the caterers little soup in little tiny little bottles. And on day 2 they gave salad. There was no soup, but one of the expo people put a little message out hoping that they were going to get the bottles again. And there's my friend Fiona, I can see over there. The umbrellas bring people from point A to point B in that rainy weather. We're very familiar with that. And then canals. Yes, that's nice, isn't it? Let's take a boat going from one venue to another. Fantastic. So they did a really good job. The theme of the conference at number 4 was language of interaction design. I guess the idea, Alok and Johan wanted to talk a little bit about the edges of this discipline, which is typically to do with the design of behavior. So they were taking program content from psychology, sociology, typography, and they came up with a great variety, great offering. This is Gillian Crampton-Smith, one of the keynotes, talking about a language around design generally. And there's great fresh topics. Irene L, these are some of my favorites. Body language of interaction design. We were kind of looking perplexed at the stage. Body language of interaction design? But I guess the premise is that you can use meditation and yoga to really get your creative muscles going. And I never saw a keynote manage to get everybody in the room to meditate at the same time. Back of a designer, it's quite a hard thing to do. I won't do it to you tonight, okay? I'll spare you. I wouldn't have the knowledge. But this is the kind of thing she's talking about in the office, getting people to limber up, do some flexing, close your eyes for a minute. It brings about a sense of mindfulness where we're thinking about your work in the context of your greater life. So it's not all about work, you're thinking about a sense of balance. And of course the legendary Scott McCloud, a hero of mine, was there. He was talking about various things, so many different things. He was talking about, the highlights for me were like the eyes being, in a landscape. So the best actual screen or viewport would be a landscape view, and not necessarily a portrait view. He was also talking about every time you make a PowerPoint, Edward Tufte kills a kitten. So you don't use PowerPoint. I'll go back. There was one more thing. The infinite canvas he was talking about, where we have been using a model of hypertext for so long, but now because the bandwidth and the broadband and the technology permits it, we can actually have an infinite canvas where the content can go left, right, up and down, as we're familiar with. So these two models are going to work hand in hand. They're not competing. They're just two different ways. And finally, Christina Woodkey's The Executioner's Tale. Christina was all about priorities and objectives, and if you're a designer, you want to get things done. So she's about execution and OKRs. If you haven't heard of OKRs, I definitely would Google them and start using them. They're very good. I've started using them since the conference and doubled the productivity in the office. Mondays are for promises, Fridays are for winners, or I might have translated that wrong, as some people know, Fridays are for beer. You can't do beer every week, but certainly you should celebrate on Friday and celebrate your achievements. The interaction, wrapping up interaction awards are fantastic. And the venue was amazing, the Maritime Museum, and lots of people were there. There's some really good awards. There's a fantastic website. I would recommend checking it out. Interaction design is healthy, it's alive. Submit your work to this awards next year. This is a winner of the Best in Show. It's a toaster that gets really annoyed if you don't start using it. So I guess it's anti-waste. So if you buy something and you don't use it and it sits there, it starts getting angry and starts flipping out. It's the Internet of Things used in a very novel way. The conference committee, by far, the number one for me was the togetherness, the work ethic of the team. Maybe because it was European or especially Dutch driven. There was a lot of hard work, a lot of humility. It was very, very meticulous. One of the maxims that I heard was keep your promises. With volunteer organisations, it's quite often that people expect volunteers to kind of disappear or flop off. I know that happened in Dublin, but I suppose there's another point of view that if you're giving your time free, you should be especially considerate of your fellow peers. So keep your promises is always very important. And ideas, remember this one is very good. Ideas are easy, implementing them is the hard part. Can you imagine designers running a conference every year and all the fantastic ideas? Come like October, it's like, okay, no more ideas, we got to build this thing. So it's very important to give yourself time for execution. And lastly, personas. They actually did a persona for, so this is Sophia, the tribes person, tribes woman. Vancouver was better is her quote. So they did personas for the conference, which is always a good thing to do. So they're eating their own dog food. Finally, is anyone here from the Netherlands? Okay, we've got a couple. I'm going to say Jezek. Gezellig. Beautifully said. I thought this meant crack, like having good crack originally, and then I thought it was cozy, it was kind of comfortable. It was, but it's certainly something that I felt after the experience, not just in the conference venue, but with the Dutch people in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands, that I walked away with a great sense of that. I hope everyone gets that sense tonight, and best of luck to all the speakers. Thanks for the opportunity to talk to you, and I'll see you around in Dublin. Thanks.